The topic is Democracy on the Horn of Africa, Part 2, indicating that we've already dealt with some of the implications for the Horn of Africa with some of the recent developments. And we have on this particular segment Masai and Dr. Nagatu to talk about some of the issues dealing with democracy not only on the Horn, but democracy in the country of Ethiopia itself. Of course, Dr. Nagatu, I think we promised you that when we came back we would give you an opportunity to continue talking about some of the issues that you see being significant on the Horn of Africa and Ethiopia at this time.
Yeah, in that part of Africa and actually as a whole in third world countries, the impact of the developed nations, the Western nations particularly, is important. The actual change should come maybe from the people themselves, but a lot of support could come also from developed nations. And what happens in Ethiopia in the last 15 years, that government is dividing the people based on ethnicity. And can you believe dividing administrative regions based on language? And you can, at the beginning even, you cannot have a party on multi-ethnic basis. You can't have a party only one ethnic for one party, another ethnic for another party. And such a system, it couldn't serve the people. It couldn't develop the economic situation in the country. But Western nations, they overlooked that at the best, but I think actively supported it sometimes. And what happened in Kenya is amazing. The reason is that Kibaki took power from Moi, President Moi, and he was elected democratically. He got his power through the ballot box. Now maybe he learned some technique from Ethiopia. His dictatorial instinct brought him back to be another dictator in Africa, and that was a stable country. And so what we know is really Western nations should really realize that these dictators, they don't care about their people, whether they come through the barrel of the gun, as it is the case in Ethiopia, or if they get opportunity, even if they come through the ballot box. So the best thing really to help the people of East Africa is to ally America, like here we are, or Western nations in West Europe, to support the people rather than the governments. And we cannot have a strategic alliance with dictators. There may be some tactical things. Here we are fighting terrorism, but a terrorist country which is terrorizing his own people cannot bring us good citizens in that country. There may be a fertile ground for terrorism in those countries. So how can America, or in all its financial resources, fight the whole world if the whole world is full of dictators? So we cannot have a strategic alliance with dictators. So we have to know that, and fortunately there is a shift in American political system. There is HR 2003. It is anonymously passed in the House of Representatives in October, and it is fully aligning American policy towards freedom, democracy, and everything we expect from American value system.
Okay, so Masai, when you started fighting your freedom fighting days in Ethiopia, what was the attitude of many of the Western nations? Has this always been the attitude, this fight for over terrorism and et cetera? And I understand, I can see it coming after 2000, but back in the 1990s, what was the attitude that most Western nations had in reference to your freedom fighting at that particular time?
Well, that time was really very different from now, because that time it was between imperialism and communism. So the communists came to my country, the Russians were there, the Americans were thrown away by the military and communist regime. So that time is that was an ideological war. It was a fight against ideology. I was fighting against communists because they were just killing people and throwing them on the street. But now is different. Now is different. Now, for example, if you compare Ethiopia and Kenya, Kenya is a very stable country and very peaceful country. From all over Africa. It was a very known, peaceful nation, democratic nation. Now this happened in Kenya.
Okay.
All of a sudden this happened. It's exploded and people are killed. The election, they say it is stolen. It is, as my brother said, it has been, they have been learned from Ethiopia's presently, because in 2005, about 26 million people come out to vote. It is the first time in Ethiopian history. Ethiopia was ruled by kings, so it was our first test of democracy, and they proclaimed there is a democracy. They tried to deceive the world there is democracy in my country, and when it comes against them, the democracy they open, they come against them because people come out and show. About 95–97% of the people voted against the present regime. That time, when people demonstrated, they stole the election. They took the election from all over the country, around the country. Then the people were angry. It was anger. So they demonstrated peacefully. That time they were killed by sharpshooters, young men, about 200 of them.
And of course, Dr. Nagatu, when we come back, let's have you to think about, before we get into this final commercial break, let's have you to think about the idea of dictatorship and democracy, to the extent that now we are, at one time we were fighting dictators, and now we're fighting terror. Now, both of those are justifications for whatever the policies that we have, you see. Now, how do you see the difference between fighting terror and fighting dictators? Is there any great, and of course we're getting ready for our commercial break, and then I want you to address that when we come back, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. We're talking to Masai